stop talking because I have to give a speech after Madame Enright, and I feel humbled by her activity, by her courage, by all the things that she had done for not only the Palestinians but all of those who love rights and want to live free in this world. I truly appreciate what you have done. So what you will hear next will be something, very small in comparable to what she has shared with us this morning. Because I'm just an academic and I just want to share with you some of my thoughts on the issue of violence and non-violence in Palestine.ต้องบอกให้เปิดสไลด์ใช่ไหมครับ It's a little bit inconvenient when you cannot control it, right? While we are waiting, there are two reasons why I accept this invitation. First, because it's about Palestinians, and I had been in that land before the occupation when I was a little child. I went with my mother and my father and my young sister at the time. Second, because for the Institute of Asian Studies, I think I was the one who first wrote an article on Palestine because at the time there was a yearly Asia RIP for those of you, and they put all countries there. And at that time I had to argue that I wanted to write about Palestine because it's not a country, it's a people. It's something there. At that point, that was a long time ago. So can we have the slide? เปิด PowerPoint ได้ไหมครับ I was warned that I will have only about 35 minutes, so but I wrote, normally I don't listen whatever people want to say. That I will, in your honor. Okay, the topic I choose to share with you this morning is seeing Palestinian nonviolence in the context of Palestinian-Israeli daily conflict. So I wanted to see the issue in context as a peace researcher and someone interested in nonviolence. ต่อครับ but wait ถอยไปก่อน I think if I want to talk about Palestine at present, I think there are four issues that one need to begin to think about. Richard Falk, the eminent human rights activist and professor of Princeton, he wrote that there are four issues that one need to take into consideration. One is the collapse of the Oslo process, and the result was the widespread disillusionment with the two-state paradigm, and that's very important about the solution. Second is the persistence of a dual reality in which Palestinian suffering is correlative with increased Israeli encroachment on Palestinian rights. Third, the growth of global solidarity with Palestine, epitomized by the BDS movement, particularly the peace sale that Madame Enright and others have led, I think contribute so much for this. And fourth is the overshadowing of Palestinian cause or Palestine's cause by other acute regional crises in Syria and in Yemen. And you will see that you will be able to come out of homes and refugee shelters without constant fear of bombardment. You will have time to uncover more bodies, bury the dead, treat more wounded, receive supplies that Israel allows through the crossing points. These are almost normal things, but it happens only after the ceasefire. But then there are so many to be done. For Israel, they will have to bury their dead soldiers, if any in this case. I think it was one or two. Take advantage of the break in rockets, but there might be a blockade on Gaza and occupation in Palestine and a threat to the lives of Israeli citizens. That will continue. So one has to pause and think about what that means to have a ceasefire in Palestine or elsewhere in the world. ต่อไปครับ Now, the thesis of what I wanted to say is only this. I say that seeing Palestinian nonviolent struggle in such a context, there is a need to do three things. One, demythologize Palestinian violence. Two, construe Palestinian nonviolent struggles. And three, refuse to be blinded by violence. วันนี้ที่จะพูดมีประเด็นแค่นี้เองนะครับคือการมองการต่อสู้ของปาเลสไตน์โดยสันติวิธีในบริบทของความขัดแย้งต้องคิด3เรื่องอันที่1ต้องตรวจสอบทำลายมายาคติเกี่ยวกับความรุนแรงในชื่อของปาเลสไตน์อันที่2คือทำความเข้าใจการต่อสู้โดยสันติวิธีแบบปาเลสไตเนียนและอันที่3อย่ายอมให้ความรุนแรงบดบังเรานะครับ I will use only 5 words in this morning's keynote address. 5 words are numbers, emotions, intractability, nonviolence, and violence. Lecture วันนี้มี5เรื่องเท่านั้นนะครับ5คำเองคือตัวเลขอารมณ์นะครับความยืดเยื้อความสันติวิธีและความรุนแรง Only 5 words. 2018 in numbers this year is a century plus 1 years following the Balfour Declaration. It's 71 years after the UN partition of Palestine and 51 years following Israel's occupation of its remnants in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. So it's significant as milestone, and I think it's important to put that on the table. I don't have time to go through all this significance, but just to show you. Here, we can talk about Palestinians' nonviolence and violence, and Israeli violence and nonviolence in any way, but I wanted to use numbers, and these are the numbers of people killed in the current violence. And if you look at the red are Palestinians' death, the blue are Israeli death. And I think the figures shows very clearly what happens. You have about 10,000 Palestinian deaths versus about 1,200 Israeli deaths. And this is the data collected by the Israeli NGO B'Tselem, and I think it's fairly reliable when you look at this. So what you see there is that in the first decade of the 21st century, it was quite, high, and then it dropped. Shot up again in 2014, and then it dropped again. But no matter how one would look at it, one very glaring fact is that Palestinians were killed 10-1. And this is the number of Palestinians wounded versus Israeli wounded. The same. The red are the Palestinians who were wounded in the conflict, and we are talking about almost 2 decades. And then the blue were the Israeli, and there were about 101,000 Palestinians wounded in the last 20 years versus about 11,000 Israeli injured in the conflicts. So you can see the figures rather